American Sociological Association is the main professional body for sociologists. One of the things they do is set guidelines for what is proper ethical social research that we conduct. And there are a few things that the ASA identifies that sociologists should do, guidelines that they should follow when they conduct research.
The categories of concern have to do with, first of all, informed consent. People involved in the study have to know about the study, have to know why they are participating and how the study is going to be used, and it has to be voluntary. They have to personally agree that it's okay, that they're willing to be involved in the study. It can't be forced on them in any way. There can't be any harm that can come to them. They should not be pressured or find that there's some other adverse reaction that other people have that come back on them as a result of participating in the study. They also indicate that one has to protect the privacy, the confidentiality, the anonymity of the people that are involved in the study. So one cannot release their names, cannot identify the source of where the data was collected in order to protect privacy. And also one has to carefully guard the data so that no one else can access that information and find out who was involved in the study.
A good example of social research that kind of violates ethics of research. You don't see it now so much. I think the best examples of unethical social research date back a few decades, to the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s. Perhaps the best example, or one of the really good examples, is a study done, it wasn't by a sociologist, but actually by a psychologist in the early 1970s by the name of Philip Zimbardo. And he was a psychologist at Stanford University. And what he's famous for is what's called the Stanford Prison Experiment, where what he did was in the psychology building on the campus of Stanford University, he built essentially a mock prison in the basement of the building. And what he did is he recruited students to participate in this study. He randomly assigned to one of two groups, to either be a guard in the prison or to be a prisoner. And what he just wanted to see is to see if these social roles, the dynamics of these social roles, how they would play themselves out. But what ended up happening, and there's documentaries that show what resulted. He planned to have this mock prison go for a couple of weeks, but things degenerated in such an extreme fashion. Within 3 or 4 days, the experiment had to be canceled. And one of the reasons this is kind of considered unethical research by today's standards is because the psychological harm that was potentially inflicted upon the people who were participating in this study, particularly the prisoners, because the guards would act at least one guard would act in a very sadistic way. And so there was a concern that the people who were prisoners, they thought that they were prisoners. They kind of lost their identity as college students. They were thinking of themselves as prisoners. And the concern with the people who participated in this study over the years is whether they've been psychologically harmed by this. My understanding, they haven't, but the potential for harm was there, and so you couldn't really replicate that kind of a study again.